December wrap-up! So as I mentioned in my December TBR, I didn't really want to focus that much on reading in December, even though I ended up reading a lot of books. I read 10 books. 7 of those were audiobooks and 3 of them were physical books. So let's get right into the wrap-up. So the first book that I read in December was an audiobook. It was The Star-Touched Queen by Roshani Chokshi. This book was amazing. I think my favorite thing about this book was the writing. The writing was some of the most beautiful writing I have ever read. After I finished this book, I went on Goodreads and I added so many quotes from this book to my favorite quotes of all time. The writing was just so beautiful and poetic. Also, I loved the inspiration from Indian folklore. I'm kind of obsessed with India. I love their mythology, I love their culture, I love their folklore. So every time there's something inspired by Indian something, it makes me so happy, and I love that. And I also really love the fantasy world. The world building was so fascinating, and I loved the magical creatures, and just everything about this world was so cool. And the romance, the love interest, he made my heart swoon. I just love everything about this book. I gave it 4 stars because it did take a little bit for me to get into it, but once I got into it, it was so good. The next book I read was Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist by Rachel Kahn and David Leviathan. So after I finished The Star-Touched Queen, I really wanted to read Dash and Lily's Book of Dares, but it hadn't come in yet because I had ordered the audiobook. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to listen to a short audiobook, so when it does come in, I can just finish it real quick. So this book is probably one of the shortest books I've ever read because it's less than 200 pages and it was only a 5-hour audiobook. So, whoa. Actually, I don't even think it was 5 hours. I think it was like 4 hours and like 50 minutes or something. It was so short. I read this in a day. Well, I listened to it. This is one of those books that takes place all in one night. That's probably why it's so short, but I really loved it. The main characters, it's told through a dual POV, which I really loved. So Nick and Nora meet at this rock concert because Nick is actually a band member in a rock band and he writes music and he's a musician. So they meet one night at this concert and they have this instant connection, and then that turns into this whirlwind night that they spend together. It was hilarious. It was so entertaining. I had so much fun reading it. And I think my favorite POV to read from was definitely Nick because his point of view was so beautiful and poetic. Like, you could tell he was a musician. Like, they got his voice right. If you just want to have fun and read a really quick read, definitely check this book out. And the audiobook was really good. And apparently there's a movie for this book. I didn't even know that. Definitely going to be watching the movie soon. Next, I read Persuasion by Jane Austen. I already talked about this in my November wrap-up, so I'm just going to skip over it. Next, I finally got the audiobooks of Dash and Lily's Book of Dares, and I read The 12 Days of Dash and Lily. Dash and Lily's Book of Dares was actually a reread for me. I read this a long time ago, a couple years ago, and it became one of my all-time favorite books. So when the second book of Dash and Lily came out, I had to reread the book and then read the second book. It had also been so long, so I couldn't really remember anything. And rereading this book was just so amazing. It reinforced my love for this book, and it's still one of my all-time favorite books. It just made me so happy, and it's so funny, and the relationship that brews between Dash and Lily is just so beautiful. Both of these books are Christmas books. They take place in New York during Christmas time. The first book starts off with Dash finding this moleskin notebook in the Strand bookstore in New York City. He finds all these instructions in this notebook, and he follows the instruction, and that starts off this amazing scavenger hunt all through New York City, and it's just so much fun. The second book is not as good as the first one, but I still really loved it. The first half of the second book was kind of sad. I didn't really like that as much, but once it started to pick up, I loved the second book. They're not just romancy and cute Christmassy reads. There's so much more than that. They make you think about a lot of things. They tackle a lot of topics about life. After that, I listened to another audiobook, 10,000 Skies Above You by Claudia Gray. Oh my freaking god. This book was incredible. The concept is so unique. It's about parallel universes and interdimensional travel, and this book is so amazing. The writing style was beautiful. Same thing with Star-Touched Queen. I favorited a lot of these quotes. Can't believe that I struggled with the first book in the series because now I think this series is going to become one of my all-time favorites, but I could not stop listening. The second I started this book, I literally had to sit there for hours listening to it. You know, an audiobook is good when you're literally just sitting around just listening to it. Usually I listen to audiobooks doing something else. I don't literally just sit down and listen, but this book was so good that I did that because I had to know what was happening next. Next book I read is Arcana Rising by Kresley Cole. Oh, I love this series. This is the Arcana Chronicles. This is book 4 in that series. The Arcana Chronicles is one of my all-time favorite series. I love it so much. So this was one of my most anticipated releases of 2016, and I finally got to it. I'm so happy, and I love this one. This is probably one of my favorites of the series because there's so many things that happened in this that I have been wanting to happen for so long, and they finally happened in this book, and it made me so happy. This book is really short. It's just over 200 pages, so not much happened, but the few things that did happen just made me so happy, and I just really loved being back into this world with all these characters. It just felt like coming back home. I loved it. I love this series so much. It makes me really sad to know that very few people know about this series and how unknown this series is, because it's just so well written. It has so amazing characters. It has some of the most unique concepts I have ever heard. This book is about human tarot cards. It's so cool. All the characters in these books are like embodiments of tarot cards. They have powers and abilities that are all related to tarot cards. And it takes place after the apocalypse too, so the world is like really ravaged and messed up. And it's just so cool. And the characters are amazing. And my favorite book boyfriend, one of my favorite book boyfriends of all time, is in this book. It's kind of a mixture of Warner from the Shatter Me series and from the Phantom of the Opera. I just love him so much. I literally told my friend that he's a combination of those two guys, and she says that's like the best combination ever. I'm like, I know, right? I love him. If you have not read this series, go read it because it's phenomenal. And if you have, please comment down below because literally like nobody knows about this series and I need to spaz out about it with someone. Of course I gave this book 5 stars, like come on. Next, I read The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicole Yoon. So I listened to the audiobook and whoa, this audiobook was amazing. I definitely recommend checking out the audiobook. I loved it. I loved it. I don't know if I like it better than Everything because I don't know. I just really love both of them for different reasons. I love how this one tackles so many different issues and it really makes you think about all of the different topics. The ending really made me tear up, especially the story with Irene. I'm not gonna spoil it, but just her storyline and the ending to her storyline, literally I was like bawling my eyes out. It was just so heartwarming and it just made me cry, and I just loved this book so much. I think Nicole Yoon is going to become one of my all-time favorite authors because the way she writes is just amazing. The characters she creates are so well-rounded and such cool people, and they feel so real. I just love everything about her writing, and I can't wait to see what else she comes up with. The next book I read is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. Oh my god, are you guys proud of me? I am so proud of myself. I originally read this Harry Potter series, the first 3 books, when I was 8, and I never finished the series, and I always said I was going to reread the first 3 books and continue on with the series, but I kept putting it off. And I finally reread the first book. Oh my god, it was wonderful and magical and amazing, and it made me so happy. I just loved it so much. I really don't know why I put off the series so much. Also, I read the illustrated edition. The illustrations added so much to the storyline and really added to my enjoyment. Just the parts in the beginning of the book where Harry meets Hagrid and it's introduced to the wizarding world are just some of the most beautiful things I have ever read, and it just made me so happy. I was actually really surprised by how much I remembered of the storyline because I read this book over 10 years ago. Like I was 8, like it was a long time ago. Yet when I was reading it, I felt like I had remembered a lot of it. I have seen the movies quite a few times, so that might be why. One critique I do have about this, the huge climax at the end. I'm not gonna spoil it if you have not read it, but I don't know, I feel like in the book it was a bit rushed. I haven't seen the movies in a while, but I feel like in the movie they kind of did this a little better. They lingered more onto the scenes and they built up the suspense. So I don't know, I mean, I still really enjoyed the scenes, but I don't know, I just felt like in the book it was a little rushed. And the last book that I read in December was My Lady Jane by Brody Aston, Jodie Meadows, and Cynthia Hand. So this book is a historical fiction kind of, but it's more of a parody. It follows the story of Lady Jane Grey, a very minor character in British history. And I am a huge history buff. It makes me so mad whenever I read something or watch something that has to do with history and it's historically inaccurate. It pisses me off. But this book didn't piss me off. It was not historically accurate at all. There was like magic in this book, magical creatures. Like one of the scenes in the book, it says part 2. This part is when we're completely throw history out the window. Like they did that and it was amazing. This book was so much fun. I loved Jake. She was just so intelligent and awesome, and very often people underestimated her, but she was so badass in her own way and I loved it. I loved all the other characters, especially Edward and Gifford. And this book was absolutely ridiculous and so silly, but I think that's just the best thing about this book. You need to go into this book not taking it too seriously because it's not supposed to be taken seriously. It's a parody. It's hilarious. I loved it. I could not stop listening to this book. So the narrator was phenomenal. Definitely check out this audiobook. It was so good. All the books I read in December. I want to do a quick January TBR. I'm not going to do a full TBR video because I just don't really know what I'm going to read in January. I started a few books in December, but I didn't finish them, so I thought I'd go through those books real quick. First book I want to talk about is Gemini by Amy Coffin and J. Kristoff. This has been on my TBR for like 4 TBRs. It's bad, I know, but as you can see, my bookmark is in it and I'm currently reading it, so I'm hopefully gonna get through this very soon, and it's really good so far. So yes, I started 2 audiobooks, so I'm gonna go through those really quick. So the first audiobook I started was A Darker Shade of Magic by Victoria Schwab, and I stopped listening to this book. Please don't kill me. I don't know if I was listening to this at a bad time because I was listening to this during finals week when I was really stressed out, and I don't know, it just wasn't really holding my attention and I kept zoning out whenever I was listening to the audiobook, and so I just returned it to the library. I'm gonna give A Darker Shade of Magic a second chance. We'll see how that goes. I think I'm gonna check out the physical book this time instead of the audiobook, and so hopefully I'll like it better. The other audiobook I started was Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. I'm actually doing this read along with a couple other people on Instagram. So I started the audiobook because I heard the audiobook was really good. And the last book I started is Myths of Immortality by Ray Wagner. So this is the first book in the series, and I'm talking about the 3rd book in the series. I actually got an ARC for review from a publisher. Oh my god, I can't even. Anyways, that's all for this video. Oh my god, this is so long. Anyways, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Comment down below what was your favorite book you read in December. My social media links are all down below. My Goodreads, my Twitter, my Bookstagram. Au revoir!